Okay. Walking Dead season finale. Go.
Overall, I enjoyed the episode immensely. I thought it was an excellent payoff to an entire season that was really hard. Frankly,
Yeah.
it was a really because the season like you don't really realize it until the very end of the episode, but suddenly it kind of hits you. This entire season's been really heavy. Like the entire season's been emotionally heavy. Even in the episodes that were lighter, there's still this cloud hanging over everything. The characters are still,
Right.
the characters are still dealing with this. They're just dealing with the threat of their saviors. And when you really think about it, the entire season's actually been really dark, even if not as dark as the bang it started with. The bang bang it started out with.
Right.
Um,
I think it was kind of heavy because the whole time they were, firmly under the boot of Negan.
mm-hmm.
Um, and the threat of more death if they should, sort of get outside of their box. So yeah, it was. There were. I remember after the episode, a lot of people were talking about, when the garbage people, the trash crew, turned on Rick's group.
Mm-hmm. Oh, didn't
Um,
see that coming.
right? Because the crazy woman that wanted to have a go at Rick, you know, she's totally sane. But people they were mad because they were like, well, why didn't Rick just take her gun? I mean, he could have just taken her out, and it's like, you kind of did get the feeling that Rick is slipping if he missed that. If he was so invested in this group that he didn't really vet,
mm-hmm.
um, that he didn't even consider that they would turn on him, even though their entire sort of
Ethos.
huh
Ethos.
yes was that they don't bother and they just take.
Mm-hmm.
um so yeah, and I pointed out that I kind of felt like he still thought he could convince them, that there was something he could offer them to buy them or whatever. And maybe that's what he was counting on, was that they, you know, maybe they couldn't be trusted, but they could be bargained with.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Um,
I feel like more like it was just sloppy writing. If you want my honest opinion, I think that's more just sloppy writing because I didn't even consider that kind of plot hole there. Because on the one hand, yeah, he kind of left himself at a massive disadvantage the way he set that up. But on the other, it's clear by the arrival of King Ezekiel and the Hilltop that he had another contingency there. Because
mhm.
the garbage people weren't prepared for those two groups to arrive and reinforce them. But he left himself in a position to take heavy casualties and to otherwise be caught out completely at a disadvantage like that on the walls, and that's just not good. And that.
And I mean, it was set up so that it was always one of their people with one of his people,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm sure you could make sort of make the argument that that gives him the advantage that they can keep an eye on them, but it also gave the garbage people the advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Should they turn on them, they would all be able to, turn on them all at once. And um, yeah, so that was really, really sort of shoddy work
Yeah.
from a guy who has spent so much time preparing for this. Um, and of course, then you had the threat of Lucille literally hanging over Carl's head.
Yep. Um. I will say though, I also enjoyed the fact that they actually, for like the first time in a very long while, they had a what's the word, like an unambiguous like heroic moment at the end there. When they kind of turn it all around, because the thing about The Walking Dead is, of course, there is a lot of moral ambiguity in it. Just because the tough decisions have to be made and so forth, and that tends to mean that like even when they do things that we consider good, it may be considered good in the context of the situation. In terms of overall morality, it may not be a good thing, that may not be a good decision that they've made, because they've had to do
Kind
something
of like we
really.
discussed with the Oceanside group.
Yes, exactly. Like what they did with Oceanside. Incidentally, how this is going to pan out with that is going to be interesting. But but usually like there's some sort of moral ambiguity. Like the heroes won, but at what cost? This time the
Hmm.
heroes won, but there was nothing ambiguous about it, and I appreciate that. Like there being a moment like that in a show that usually doesn't have them, because it kind of added to like how kind of uplifting the ending felt of the ending of the episode felt. It added to
Right.
that because there weren't any doubts in your mind or anything. It literally was just a good thing has happened, and you
Hmm.
should be happy.
Yeah. And I loved watching the tiger like leap into
Yeah,
the
she does.
frame and take someone out.
Yep.
That moment for me was just like, yes.
And then there's Ezekiel. He's just like this warrior, and it's just like comes out like this warrior, and you're just like, oh, oh, you
Yeah.
are you are far more impressive than I
He
gave
doesn't
credit for,
display
sir.
it.
Hmm.
He's not just pretending. That's,
Hmm.
yeah. Rawr.
It
Go.
was. I don't know why you get that rar. That's not very threatening. That's very let's just say that's
No,
not
that's
something
like
that people are trying to be threatening to. Rar.
I wasn't trying to be threatening. That was me showing my appreciation for that sly silver fox that came around the corner with guns ablazing.
Hmm. There was also something also satisfying about the fact that like everyone's just like kind of united now. Like reunited, and
Oh
after
yeah.
spending an entire season where everyone's been separated and unable to, like trying their best to coordinate over vast distances.
I I kind of loved Negan's surprise with the fact that Maggie was alive
Hmm.
and shooting his dudes. That was awesome.
Hmm. And again, doesn't disappoint when it comes to Negan. You gotta like the guy. You gotta like him. As much as you hate him, you like him.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just a great character. Such a great character. You know, just a kind of the complex villain that we all deserve.
Hmm. Also, it looks
Oh,
like what?
what?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, speaking of villains, oh shoot, what's his face? Hang on. Um, Josh McDermott, Eugene.
Hmm.
He has taken a hiatus from social media because he was getting so much hate over his character's actions in siding with Negan.
I feel
You
sorry
know,
for actors who have to go through that. I feel
I know
so sorry for that.
it's for all of the idiots out there who cannot separate the mullet from the man. Um, Josh McDermott has done nothing wrong. He just plays a character on TV.
Yes.
His you might hate his character right now, but that's no reason to make like death threats against him.
Hmm. They should just set up like a fake address to, like to say set up like a fake address to like the sanctuary. Send all hate mail
I
directed
like
towards.
uh, the headline in moviepilot.com. The Walking Dead star Josh McDermott quit social media because trolls have less brains than walkers.
That's great. Anyway, so
But
yeah.
yeah, so Eugene, Um, there was a moment there with him and Negan where you kind of see that Negan's doubting him.
Mm-hmm.
He questions how Sasha died. Um, and Eugene explains it as
She
she
ran out of air. She
ran out of
suffocated.
it. Yeah.
But Negan seems to be a little too smart for that.
You know, I would even go so far as to suggest that he has perhaps used this um, you know, this coffin before. Maybe he just locked people in there to screw with their head, and he knows that she wouldn't have run out of air that quickly.
Mm-hmm. Entirely possible. Either way,
I
Eugene
mean,
seems to be in a spot of not trouble, but he's not in the same place he was when the episode began.
yeah. I mean, it clearly Negan has some doubt where Eugene is concerned. Um, and Eugene's now in a very tough place where, in order to prove his loyalty to Negan, he's going to have to do something terrible to the people that he cares about. Um, and I'm kind of excited to see the whole dynamic because Negan knows that the Hilltop was in on it. He knows that Maggie's alive.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that the Kingdom was in on it, and so all of these places that he's had providing goods to him and his people, that he has ruled by fear, have turned on him.
Yes.
And he's got this new group, but I mean, how much can he really trust them?
Yeah. They're kind of the
So
wild card. Um,
you know that he is ready to wage all out war because he's pissed, and Negan doesn't handle this sort of um he doesn't handle being challenged at all. He wants to squash that quick. So, you know, but at the same time, he's going to have to strike fast before they run out of supplies.
yep. I'm interested to see how that plays out, given they have three very disparate locations to try and protect. They're the distance between them and everything. It's going to make things difficult, especially since they're severely outnumbered by the Saviors. On the other hand, they do have one, not really trump card, but they do have one thing going in their favor: Dwight. Because, as I said before, Dwight isn't an asshole. Or at least not really. He can be, but he doesn't want to be.
Maybe, maybe.
Maybe. Like,
I mean,
he clearly takes some sort of pleasure out of behaving like an asshole for Negan's, in front of Negan, but it's just like, it's not really where his heart is.
yeah. It's interesting to see which, out of Dwight and Eugene, which one of those guys is going to be the better inside man.
Mm-hmm. Given that Eugene at this point isn't an inside man at all, he's a traitor. Um,
Right.
right now it's clearly in Dwight's favor.
But I mean, there's ways that he could hamper the process, but if he does too much of that, that suspicion that Negan has is definitely going to grow into, you know,
And I think it depends, frankly, on how his relationship pans out after that, since Negan's gonna be more suspicious of him now, and how's it gonna build off of that, and if it reaches, I feel like there might be a point where there's an episode where we just see Eugene finally just, Eugene might try to redeem himself finally and might, suffer for it. I think that's entirely a possible outcome here. You know.
right. At this point, I think that would actually be like the most satisfying character arc for him.
Mm-hmm.
It's just to kind of see him come to regret that and to do something about it, to finally, like in the end, have, the courage to do what's right
Right.
and not just, what's easiest for himself, and, then to pay a price for it.
Mm-hmm.
That would be, really.
That would be a satisfying outcome. Yes.
uh,
But I guess we'll see. I guess we shall
yeah,
see.
like you said, it's going to be difficult for the three groups, sort of the triad of good guys,
Mm-hmm.
um, to defend all of their locations.
Yeah.
Um,
And it kind of makes you wonder if they're going to have to evacuate one or more of them at some point next season.
yeah,
It strikes me that probably the hilltop may be the least defensible.
that's what I was thinking. Um, just in terms of numbers and, the sort of the goods that they have, or what they can produce at each
Mm-hmm.
location.
Yeah.
um, I'm wondering if Hilltop isn't sort of bottom of that list.
Hilltop probably is because it's only defended by like a wooden, like a large wooden palisade and so forth. Whereas like Alexandria is the steel walls, and I can't remember what the kingdom's defenses are. I can't remember if it's also steel, like it's kind of steel walls, or if it's like kind of like thicker, more traditional kind of castle walls, almost like a sort of like a Moat and Bailey sort of deal. Not like
Hmm.
not without a moat. I'm just saying like a castle of that style. Can't remember. Like some
Yeah,
sort of earthen. I think it's not an earthen wall, but just something of that sort. Like a thicker defense though, rather than
right.
something kind of thin. Oh, so it's in.
It still puzzles me why no one spent more time on their defenses.
Mm-hmm.
Of all the places that they've been, you know, the saviors have the best defenses.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's I guess that's until next season though. Oh yes, and again, I'm interested to see how Oceanside's going to factor into this because that's also something else they're going to have to deal with the repercussions of, taking away Oceanside's guns.
And giving them to crazy people that turned on them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they have firepower. They have access to firepower again anyway. It's just that it's like how is that? How's it going to affect it? How's it going to affect things diplomatically and so forth as well? Because they're going to have to
Right.
because if anything, you can figure they're probably going to try to get Oceanside on their side again, saying, hey, look, we managed to drive them away. Now help us before we all die.
Yeah.
Maybe not in those words, but, something to that effect.
Well, I just wonder because it seemed like Oceanside was split between wanting to join them and wanting to stay where they were. I'm
I'm sure it's
wondering
a
if
split.
I'm wondering if some of those people who sort of are what you might call the warrior types, don't, seek out Alexandria.
Mm-hmm. We'll see.
I'm wondering if that doesn't happen.
Speaking of seeking out, I'm seeking out a new life in Indiana. Segway!
Yay! That's so smooth. You're very good at that. Way to go, Ose.
Smooth like diarrhea. Okay, anyway.
Gee. And you ruined it. I like how we take like the smoothest segues and announce them because that doesn't totally kill it.
No, yeah, but it's more fun. It's more fun that way. So yeah, in the middle of the period in which my computer was broken, I finally took that trip to Indiana to see if it was what I actually wanted to do. If I actually wanted to move there and uproot my life and take it away from anything I know or recognize in my entire, in my entirety of my life. And yeah, I've concluded that's what I want to do. Now I could talk about 1.5 million things, frankly, but maybe Shan, you'd like to take the lead, give me some indication of where I could, where I should what I should talk about.
Um, well, I don't know. I mean, we were talking about your life changing. My life is the same mess it's always been. So I don't
Exactly. So now
really
you
know.
can distract yourself by talking about it.
Um, I thought it was a beautiful city, and Ruth is an amazing hostess, and she has like the best bathtub ever.
I mean, I didn't use it as a bathtub. I only ever took showers, but I mean,
That's just a shame. That's like a waste of your time there.
I don't take baths. But
That's okay. Okay. I mean, it's nice to know that the tub still holds the memory of me floating in it and that you didn't ruin that in any way.
I mean, I don't know if I did. I mean, I don't know if it does because I didn't mind meld with it. But sure, yeah, we'll go with that. But yeah, so I lived with Ruth for a week. A very strange week. Um, because
Trial by fire.
yeah, trial by fire. Because as it turns out, and I know that she has mentioned this on air before, so I don't feel any qualms about it. I don't know that, but it's all done with now for 3 weeks. But basically, for several months preceding the trip, Ruth's grandmother was dying, like slowly fading, like slowly fading, and but like nothing like reaching the end of her life until I was there. That
They
Thursday,
thought it would be what, like sometime after the summer or, you
they
know,
thought they should make it. They thought she would make it to summer, um, but it was not to be. That Thursday,
but your visit just that did it.
yeah,
It was like
yeah, because what
Osage touchdown in Indiana. No,
basically what happened is
everything must change.
things already went awry. Like the first night was fine, right? The second one, though, things went a little awry because Vanessa, the other person I am moving in with, Vanessa had to get two of her wisdom teeth removed. So that kind of put a damper on things that day because, well, she's completely out of it because, of course, she's been gassed. So she's loopy like you see in those videos. Nothing particularly embarrassing happened. I wasn't recording anyway. I should have. I should have in hindsight, but there's a video. No idea where that is, but yeah, she was totally out of it. So the day was kind of eh. The day kind of went kind of eh.
So you got to see one of your housemates like totally loopy
Yeah.
and out of her mind.
And then on Thursday we went to see a house. Turns out this house is absolutely perfect for us because its location is perfect and everything. And in fact, this is the house we're going to be moving into. Go figure. The first house we look out, everything's perfect. That's God for you. But 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 yeah. So then after we go see the house, we go to we go to Ruth's parents' house, and we run an errand with her mom and everything. And when we get back, suddenly Grandma takes a turn for the worse. She starts going. She transitions into the final stage. Into the final stage. Death basically. And it just turns the entire week into not a nightmare. That's like the word that immediately comes to mind, but it's not really what happened. It was actually a pretty enjoyable week. Everyone was kind of like stressed out and everything, but and you can tell in the video I uploaded
Hmm.
to our Nerd Rage channel. You could tell by the video uploaded when I was there that things were not, that both Ruth and Rosie were really, really haggard. Like they looked tired.
Yeah.
It was a rough time. It was a rough time for me to be there and everything. But I tried my best to be supportive and everything. Because what else can you do? I can't control when
Well, I mean,
90 year
you're basically part of the family now. I mean, you've
yeah, pretty
experienced
much.
everything with the family, so
Yeah,
you are
pretty
one of.
much. Pretty much, it was very unexpected and a little overwhelming. I didn't really know how to process it when I was there. That on top of Comic Con, which I wasn't really prepared for emotionally either, and it just the entire week was like really strangely like stressful. But I can't say I didn't enjoy it. I did enjoy it. It was different, and there was
Well,
some.
if you can get the worst of everything and still call it enjoyable, then you know that that's probably where you need to be.
Yeah, there were some unfortunate goings on, but at the end of the day, I think it all worked out in the end because well, I'm going. You know, the first weekend in June, I'm going. So
Yeah.
voila. Um,
So, how was Comic Con?
uh, definitely overwhelming. I didn't take nearly as many pictures as I wanted to. I should have stopped way more cosplayers and just said, "Can I get a picture?" Because I had I had my fancy new camera and everything, but I just didn't because I was like there was just like too much going on. So like my brain eventually just got overwhelmed, especially on the long day on Saturday. I
Yeah.
just got like completely I just got completely I just like kind of wandered the floor for like an hour and a half at one like towards the end because I just like couldn't. But at the same time, it was enjoyable. Excuse me. I got this mouse pad. It's the only thing. That's the only thing I really have to show for it. But
Wow.
it's very nice artwork. Okay, so leave me alone. Leave me
You got
alone.
a mouse pad.
I got a mouse pad. Not much else to show for it
Wow.
to be. Not much else to show for it to be honest, because I didn't want to spend too much. Because again, I was there in part because I'm looking to move, so saving money as much as possible, which my computer didn't want me to do. Um, it was something I was aiming to
So,
do, which is
yeah, okay, so my first Comic Con was last year, and I kind of felt like, oh, this is where I belong. It was awesome. I loved seeing, just everybody kind of dressed up and wearing their nerdy stuff and, um, kind of just walking around
mm-hmm,
and oh my gosh, it's nerd heaven, because you have all your vendor booths where you've got all your merch, and you've got all your artist booths where like super dorks make
mm-hmm.
cool stuff from their favorite fandoms, and you can actually go and talk to celebrities that you watch on TV and movies. It's awesome.
I don't know if I could reasonably say that like a convention is where I belong, but I definitely want to try it again, and possibly cosplaying next time.
See, I loved it so much. The first person I talked to is like the sweetest man ever, ever, ever. Um, and that was Admiral Adama from Battlestar Galactica.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's his name again?
Um, uh,
Edward James Olmos, right?
yeah.
Right.
I can never remember if it's Edward James or James Edward. But
I don't know. I don't care. We have the right names in there, maybe in the wrong
I
order.
it's Edward James almost.
Edward
Yeah.
James Olmos, yeah. But anyway, but yeah, didn't get an opportunity to talk to any celebrities myself. But
What?
like I said, I burned out like halfway through on Saturday.
Wow.
I burned out halfway through on that Saturday because it was just
I can
tiring.
understand that because my first Comic Con, the Saturday, I got like a massive migraine halfway through the day and had to leave and go to the hotel and lay down and then go back.
Hmm.
Um, because yeah, it was kind of overwhelming and it just like it made my head explode.
However, I did see two panels. One I mentioned before, the one with Kari Payton, King Ezekiel on The Walking Dead. Um, also
He's
he
like a
I
cool dude.
hmm?
He seems like a cool dude.
Oh yeah, he is the most natural human being on the face of the earth, frankly, for someone who's famous. But I also didn't realize he was actually the voice actor for Cyborg on Teen Titans, and like it never occurred to me. And then when we were sitting there and Ruth looked up his IMDb and mentioned that, I'm like, oh wait, really? And then I thought about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is his voice. It's like it never occurred to me that that was the same person. But yeah, his panel was funny though, just because he's just like, I'm not gonna sit in the chair, I'm gonna sit on the table, you know, and it was great. It was great, and You know, he was entirely a normal human being. And then after that, like almost immediately afterwards, we saw the panel for Carrie Elwes, who
Oh, see, that would be so cool.
but you know, it was funny listening to tell stories about tell stories from the set of the Princess Bride and from others as well. You know, from Saw and so forth.
Yeah.
But
And I mean, my girls loved him on Psych because
Mhm.
he played, you know, the like the art thief.
But yeah, so that was pretty cool. I probably should have found something else like that, like a panel or something to watch, like when I was in like burnout mode, just something to like rest and relax with, because I was kind of wandering on my own at that point. Just kind of
Mhm.
separated out to kind of do my own thing, and
But
turns out that was a terrible mistake because I had no direction or focus. But but yeah, overall though, for my first convention experience, I thought it was pretty good. Could have been better, but that's mostly from just me lack of knowing. That was for lack of me knowing how to really handle it.
mm.
If I had known how to handle it better, I probably would have handled it better. So
Well, I think you should fly down here the beginning of the year and go to the con in New Orleans.
we'll see. We'll see what the future holds. Um, like I said, though, I do want to try cosplaying though, because just because, well, something I could do.
Mhm.
But we'll see what I decide to do. If I decide to do that, because it'll of course take time and money, and I don't have a lot of skills relevant to that sort of thing. I mean, I could buy a costume, of course, but I'd rather like have something of my own. Like something that I could call my own. If I was really
Mhm.
gonna like have a costume, because it doesn't. It's not that it would feel wrong otherwise. It's just that I want it to be. If like I'm gonna have a costume, I want it to be my own work. I want it to be something that's like, hey, this costume isn't just a costume, it's an extension of me, I put some
Mhm.
effort into this. And I appreciate cosplaying on that level, like seeing what cosplayers
Yeah.
do.
Well, I mean, it is, it's sort of its own art.
But yeah, besides that though, Indiana was definitely a trip. Um, Duh, of course it was a trip. I mean, it was my first time in the air too. It was the first time I ever flown in an airplane. That was different. It was also one of the coolest things I've ever done, frankly. Um, like it was so weird being above the clouds, frankly. But it was so cool because it was like
Did
such
you
a
have a
different.
window seat?
Hmm.
Did you have a window seat?
Yes, I had a window seat
Awesome.
on the
See,
way and back.
I love to watch like the world become a patchwork
Hmm.
as you take off. Watch things get smaller and smaller and smaller until like the cars look like ants, and then you
Unfortunately,
see,
like we once got like above like say like the line of like cumulus clouds and everything, couldn't really see the world, beneath that because there was too much cloud cover. Wasn't There was like no clear skies,
hmm
between Jersey and Indiana. So I really didn't get
yeah,
to see much after like we got above like the main cloud layer. Like I know like it's hard to see from there to begin with. Um, the sun's glare doesn't really help. Even when there's light clouds, it doesn't seem to help. But I know like it got difficult though after a point because there was just a lot of cloud
yeah.
cover at that time.
It's
At that
still
time.
cool to look out the window and just see clouds.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, it's like a whole
you know,
other world.
yeah, a
There's like
whole new
there's
world.
like mountains and valleys and lakes and seas and it's just like wow, this is different.
I used to fly a lot between here in California with usually with a layover in Dallas Fort Worth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, taking off, it just always looked like the world became a patchwork quilt
Yep.
as you got off into the um, sort of at cruising speed, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and it was so cool just to sort of watch everything get smaller and smaller and smaller until it was just patches of color.
And it kind of gives you a whole new perspective on the world too.
Yeah,
You know, it's funny because in the past I've noted that people in where I used to live in the New York City area in particular, tend to have a very small, limited view of the world. You know, I think that a lot of people, frankly, in big cities, like believe things like, you know, anthropogenic climate change, for example, because all they actually know really is the city,
Hmm.
and they don't realize there's actually like this huge, vast world out there.
Yeah.
You know, they don't realize that there actually are miles upon miles of forest out there. You know, they don't realize that there are vast uncultured plains. They don't realize that there are vast untamed mountains out there. They don't realize that these aren't just things in a map, and they don't realize how vast these places are.
Right.
And I'm not trying to turn this political or anything. There it's just that I've observed that, you know, like, the perspective is very limited. When you live in New York, your entire world is basically New York and its like surrounding areas. Maybe you'll travel into Long Island once or twice, or you'll travel up into upstate New York for a bit. But you don't
Right.
realize that there's this huge, expansive, untamed wild land. You know, you don't realize that there's a world that thinks differently from you, and for a good reason.
Yeah, and with good reason. We've discussed it before, where you know, the difference between city dwellers and people, even, you know, in suburbs and especially in rural areas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the cities, everything is there. You can have anything brought to you.
Yeah.
You know, you have shared sort of uh, transport and shared resources, and it's you could even, you know, say that it's necessary in those highly populated areas to have shared resources.
Yeah.
But you know, so there are only a few limited areas in the entirety of the United States that live that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, they don't have a clue how people live like where I am,
Yeah. Or where I
where,
am.
you know, you can hardly find a cab in the city, you know, because most people drive, you know, anywhere from 10 to 30 miles to get there. Um, and, you know, I mean, it's just, there aren't shared resources because people don't live close enough for that to even be feasible.
Yeah.
Um, and we've talked about how, you know, people that live in rural areas have to be a lot more self-sufficient,
Mm-hmm.
and people in urban areas don't know how to be
Yeah.
because they haven't had to. So, I mean, that's
Yeah.
it,
Traveling definitely changes your perspective a bit. You know.
yeah.
Anyway, all right. We've been talking for a while. We probably should put an end to this. I get the feeling, based on the shadows I'm seeing in the background, that people are getting restless anyway, trying not to cut in
You
front of the
know,
camera.
it feels like everyone's walking in and out of the house, and yes, and they continue opening and shutting the door. Are you done? Are you done now? Okay.
So,
Not
with
like
all
I'm
that,
doing anything here.
with all that
There
said,
goes the other door. Great. Just open them all.
I want to thank you for watching Nerd Rage episode 171. We did have a lot to talk about. Managed to fill more than an hour, frankly. But that's okay. I don't think it really matters. But
You love us and you want to watch us talk about things.
if you enjoyed it, be sure to check out the links in the description below for, well, all the stuff we frankly do. Check out fullfrontalnerdery.net, our primary website. I'm probably going to try to do a write up on everything we just talked about regarding my trip to
You did that other write
Indiana.
about
Star
Star
Wars.
Wars Rogue One in particular.
Rogue One and The Force Awakens. Yeah.
Hmm.
So be sure to check that out. Also, be sure to check us out on social media. We are both on Facebook, and we are also both on Twitter. You can follow Shannon at
Limbus_N_Coffee.
She's completely out of practice because we haven't done this in a month.
Exactly.
You can also follow me at OseronPhaer, OSERONPHAER. I'm not even sure if I'm going to bother mentioning my other Twitter account at this point because I just don't use it. And it seems pointless. It seems as superfluous as one might call it. But yes, also be sure to check out my YouTube channel, OseronPhaer Gaming. And we will catch you next week. We're not sure if it's going to be live or if it's going to be pre-recorded, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Until next week, everybody.
Goodbye. Are we ready? Yeah. You want to do the intro?
Maybe?
Well, let me yell at the kids. Girls!